Julian Assange, the founder of Wikileaks, can bring a fresh appeal against his extradition to the US. A London court has granted him the permission. It's both a small defeat for the US and renewed cause for hope for Assange. It was enough for Assange supporters to erupt into cheers outside the High Court. The latest hearing came after the US was asked to provide some assurances. What exactly? That Assange would not be subject to the death penalty if extradited. He would also be entitled to use the right to free speech as part of his defense as a US citizen. Even though he is not one, the man is an Australian journalist. He has been hoping to rely on the press protections provided by the US Constitution for publishing classified American information. The US, by the way, has accepted that there would be no attempt to execute Assange, but it failed to guarantee freedom of speech. Assange's legal team called it patently inadequate, and the court allowed Assange to raise a new appeal. Assange's family feared that he could be on his way to the US as soon as this week, but now the legal battle is likely to continue for some time. Assange has now spent 5 years in British jail. He has been denied bail multiple times as he is deemed to be a flight risk. Before being forcibly dragged to the prison, he spent 7 years inside the Ecuadorian embassy in London. Ecuador had granted him asylum, remember, saying there were fears his human rights might be violated if he was extradited. But what has Assange done exactly? Why does the US want to extradite him? Let's get to the details. Back in 2016, Assange established a media company called Wikileaks. It's a non-profit that publishes leaked files from governments and other powerful global actors. In 2010, it published classified US diplomatic and military documents. The papers concerned American relations with other states and the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. And this landed Assange in trouble. He was indicted on 17 charges of espionage and 1 of computer misuse for releasing thousands of classified American records. However, a lower British court ruled that Assange should not be sent to the US, citing a real and oppressive risk of suicide. But in 2021, US authorities succeeded in overturning that decision. He was granted a reprieve earlier this year. British judges ruled Assange could take his case to an appeal hearing if the US fails to provide satisfactory assurances, and that's exactly what has happened. The latest decision means that Assange has potentially much more legal road to run in his battle with the US. What happens next? Assange and his legal team will now spend months preparing his appeal, and if his appeal fails, he could seek an intervention by the European Court of Human Rights. It's an international court which adheres to the European Convention on Human Rights. The UK is a signatory to this treaty, by the way. Is there any other way out? Could a political intervention perhaps change things? Last month, US President Joe Biden had said he was considering a request from Australia to drop the case. And with that, he provided a slim hope that the legal saga could be stopped. Australia has long pressed for the US to drop its prosecution against Assange. In February, in fact, the Australian Parliament called on the American and the British governments to allow Assange to return to his homeland. But as a potential Trump victory looms, things might get difficult for Assange going forward. To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.